Pop it thugs, welcome to the Mrs. Best Reviews channel. I am Mrs. Best. For those who do not know me, it is nice to meet you. We are here to do another documentary review. I wasn't actually going to review this Netflix documentary. The documentary, if you're here, obviously you're aware, I am going to be reviewing The Crash for this documentary. I want to take a moment and welcome everybody that is watching the live premiere. I do appreciate you guys for watching the premiere video. I am and will be in the chat with you guys. And a happy Friday if you are watching when this is premiering. Also, if you enjoy the content that you are seeing and what I am doing, I appreciate you. I am a new YouTuber, still building my channel. Things will improve with time, but I do appreciate every person who likes the video or subscribes to the channel. I appreciate you and I thank you for it. As always, there are some other great creators that are in the link, or that links to their channel are in the description of this video. A lot of them cover scripted TV, reality TV. Some of them cover documentaries. I encourage you to check them out as well. But let's get into the hot mess express that was Netflix's The Crash. Now, I cut this documentary on just looking for something to watch with my husband. We were in the bed, honestly, doing homework. We are both college students. I'm a graduate student. He's getting his first degree. So we like to watch documentaries just in the background. Baby, when I tell you my assignment was late and his took hours to finish because we were hooked into this documentary. Now, I was not aware that Mackenzie, the young lady who we're going to discuss throughout much of this documentary, who's sitting in jail for this crash, I was unaware that she was, I guess, some sort of a TikToker. Mrs. Best is a millennial. I'm 34 years old. I'm not old, but I'm also not young. So TikTok is something I am still learning. I'm hardly on there. I do have a TikTok. Feel free to send me things. But I guess this was trending on TikTok at the time that something went down, and it's a lot. So The Crash is basically a Netflix documentary that follows a case and a crash that happened in the year 2022, so a couple years back. And the person who was involved in the crash, her name is Mackenzie Shirilla. Oh, child, I hope I am saying that right. I may be saying it incorrectly. But Mackenzie is a 17-year-old girl from Ohio, which is where the crash happened. And the crash that happened was crazy. This girl was on the street, not on the freeway, the highway, the interchange, whatever you call it. She was on the street doing about 100 miles an hour in a Toyota, and she crashed into a building and nothing else. She did have people in the car with her. She had her boyfriend, whose name was Dominic Russo. I hope I'm saying it correctly. It could be Russo. It could be Russo. Unfortunately, he did pass away. Y'all know how I am. I want to be nothing but respectful to the deceased that are mentioned in this documentary. I feel like their lives were lived. Their lives were taken from them, unfortunately, too short. So I'm only going to speak to them as it relates to the documentary. And also his friend Davion Flanagan was also in the car. Davion and Dominic did pass away, which is unfortunate, but Miss Mackenzie did live. So the Netflix documentary goes over a lot of stuff. We're going to go over all of that, but pretty much the main points, I'm going to just go over the focal points of the doc. I would love to hear from the chat. Like, let me know if you guys think that Mackenzie crashed that car intentionally, or if you guys think that she did this on accident. Because I'm very curious, because I've seen a lot of people online. I haven't seen one person, if I'm being honest, who feels like this girl was not purposeful in what she did. I haven't seen anybody that thinks she truly had an accident. Not a one. But let's get into the documentary, beautiful people. We're going to start with how the documentary opens. The documentary pretty much opens letting us know that on 7/31/22 in Strongsville, Ohio, that Mackenzie was driving with her friends. They were leaving a party. Now, there's some controversy on whether they were leaving a party, a slumber party, or things like that. These were 17-year-old kids, but they were coming home after a get-together with their friends, and this girl crashed into a commercial building at a super high speed. And as we know, her friends died instantly, while Mackenzie was able to survive her injuries as the driver. Now, the next thing they kind of show us throughout the doc is that the investigators aka the police that were looking into the case. There's always someone that looks in the car crashes. This car was destroyed. Like, you could see how Mackenzie survived because she was kind of on the outer of it, but the rest of the car was mush. Like, you wouldn't be able to understand where the car come from, what kind of car it was. It looked destroyed. So of course they investigate the car crash, and some key points that were really strange that started to make people look like this may not have been an accident. There were no skid marks. They did bring experts and people who spoke on the case in to explain that generally when people have a car crash, they try to correct themselves or avoid it. And so you see or hear some type of skid mark. They showed that video and the sound of that crash was like deafening. That was absolutely insane. But they showed it and you just heard and then the explosion of the crash. You did not hear any skidding. You did not hear any attempts to brake, which would have caused the tires to do that. You just heard driving and then crash, which is crazy. Now, again, the other key point they brought up, which I just mentioned, was the fact that there was no attempt to brake. There was also found to be, when they investigated the vehicle, no malfunctions with the acceleration or the brake, indicating that she had to accelerate. Now, I have driven Toyota Camrys, new and old. I used to sell cars. I also owned a Toyota Corolla. Those cars have those eco buttons in them, especially if you have the hybrid models. Like, it's not just going to pick up and accelerate like that. Like, you had to really work to get the car to accelerate like that. And other key points they start to bring up throughout the documentary is that Mackenzie and Dominic's relationship was not all perfect. It was not all perfect. That's like the major plot, because the relationship drama, the way they painted in the documentary, kind of gives us a clue that this may have been her motive to do something to him or to, drive the car in that crazy type of way. So Mackenzie and Dominic's relationship was extremely toxic. Their friends describe it this way. Doesn't sound like the parents are aware of much. I'm going to get her parents together too, especially that mama, because her parents said a lot of questionable shit that irritated me. Her parents said a lot of questionable things. But Mackenzie and her dudes were basically, her and Dominic argued a lot. It seems like a lot of the arguments were based on jealousy. It also seemed like she was emotionally unstable and somewhat manipulative. Like, he felt like he could not get out, it seemed like. In addition to that, there was a lot of threats that like she would make towards him. And then like the stuff that she did on social media, like, really did not help, because she liked to post stuff constantly. She also would post herself smoking weed. Now, y'all know I'm a pothead. I get it. I know 17-year-olds smoke weed. However, I found it weird that her dad was like, yeah, I know my child smoked weed, but I rather her smoke that than do other stuff. I'm like, I know that kids smoke, but that doesn't mean as adults that we should just like accept it. There should be some attempt to parent and let her know, like, I don't want you smoking like this. Like, I felt like her parents kind of let her get away with a lot. I feel like they let her get away with a lot, especially because some of the important things we learned about Mackenzie that they came up with and explained to us, like, there were times that she wasn't the nicest to other people in school. She wasn't the best student. She had issues. And I felt like the parents just kind of tried to skate over that. All kids have problems. They kept saying she's an exemplary child and they never had to discipline her. I don't believe they never had to discipline her. I believe that her parents chose not to discipline her, which is crazy. But Mackenzie had all of these red flags, and you go to her social media and you just pretty much saw her driving and smoking and driving, hitting her bong. Like, she painted herself out to be somebody who was always lit. There was also the issue of mushrooms, which came up throughout much of this documentary, because they were trying to say that Mackenzie could have been high on mushrooms, but she was tested and a lot of stuff comes out at the trial. But essentially, after we learned this crazy background about the 17-year-old girl who sounded like she had the life of a college student at 17, we learned that Mackenzie, at the time of the crash, her and Dominic were not in a good place because Dominic wanted to end the relationship, but Mackenzie was not having it. So let me tell y'all what I think. I personally feel like the threats, the craziness over the relationship, the jealousy, the consistent arguments, like I legit feel like maybe this girl got emotional about a breakup and was like, if I can't have you, no one will, and crashed into that wall. Especially being that she's 17, and it sounds like she already had some impulse and emotional issues, and then she's smoking heavy amounts of weed and doing mushrooms and hallucinogens and shit at 17. Your brain's still developing. Like, that cannot be good for you. But we're going to focus on the trial a little bit more. So we get to the trial, and apparently the trial was extremely controversial because the prosecutors were trying to argue that they felt Mackenzie was intentional in the crash. The reason they were trying to do that is because of the evidence that they had unleashed and found. So they found phone data with text messages basically proving that Mackenzie and Dominic were not in a good place. They found videos and text messages on her social media and on her phone and on the phones of her friends, proving that she's somebody who at the very least was driving under the influence, also proving that she was problematic and having problems in her friend group. They have witness testimony from people alleging that Dominic wanted an out from the relationship and that Mackenzie was difficult. They also did a speed analysis on why someone would go so fast in a car with no known issues to driving. So it was very intentional. There was no attempt to brake, but she was very intentional with acceleration. And Mackenzie's lawyers, the defense, they kind of argued and felt like Mackenzie could have had a potential medical episode. The reason they say this is there was a diagnosis. I'm so sorry, you guys. I am not a doctor. I work in mental health, but she had some sort of a medical diagnosis that caused her to kind of like fall in and out of consciousness and basically be impaired enough to where something like this could happen. But even with that, if you pass out, I would assume your weight would fall onto the gas. They didn't find that that was a thing. They also tried to argue that her mental health struggles could have contributed. And they also said that there's no definitive proof that she intended to do anything to these people. I think what the defense forgot about, and a lot of people watching the documentary who may be on Mackenzie's side, is you can be charged for murder without it being planned. Like, there's premeditated and then there's just murder. Okay. So you don't have to premeditate it in order for you to be charged. And I get the no definitive proof of intent, but it looked like her prosecution was struggling really bad, which I can totally understand because, I mean, what did they have? All the evidence pointed in her direction. I found it to be extremely weird. Like, I found it to be extremely freaking weird. But after the trial, Mackenzie is convicted of murder. She was sentenced for 15 years to life for each gentleman. Dominic, she got 15 years to life for. She also got that for Davion. If you do the math, she basically will be out by the time she's like 32 or 3, which can't be too far away. But she's going to be able to get out at an age where she still has the opportunity to live her life. She can make a family. She can meet a man or a woman, whatever she likes. She could go to school, get a career, have time to live her life, still retire and have a wonderful life. Like, these two young men, they don't get that opportunity. Their lives were taken from them. So I did kind of feel like, wow, you could take a life from someone and that's all the time you get. But the government gives people who sell drugs or do tax evasion like crazy amounts of time. Like, it doesn't make sense. It just did not make sense. Now, throughout this documentary, y'all, I think the nastiest part that kind of made me like, are you motherfucking kidding me? I'm gonna have to curse. I'm so sorry because y'all know I've been trying to stop. But her prison interview was terrible. So they show her in the interview, and you know she done made some friends up in there because she came in the prison interview with the full face of makeup on, even though that is considered contraband in there. She had her little swoop ponytail and thought she was doing something. You could tell that she was really like kind of low-key walking like a diva, like still thinking she's hot shit. And I'm like, girl. Now, in her interview, Mackenzie denies intentionally crashing and crashing that car. I would like to point out, if I got in a car accident and hurt anybody, whether they lived or died, I would be tore up. She had no emotion. She's like, I didn't do that intentionally. Girl, you didn't even crack a tear. She claims she does not remember the impact. You've seen neurologists and doctors, baby. You may not remember the initial impact, but you remember what you was doing before and after. She speaks about the victims, Davion, and Dominic, but she does so with, like, in my opinion, a lack of emotion. And she also kind of suggests that, like, she's also a victim, which is extremely narcissistic and something that only a sociopath would do, by saying that day that she lost her life and herself emotionally. And I know a lot of people may feel like, based on what they saw, like, I feel like people may feel like, oh man, maybe she really, felt away. Maybe she really felt bad for what happened. Maybe she has regret. But I just don't know that she does. I think the worst part, the very worst part about it all was at the end, where she looked to her lawyer. She's like, did I get that right? I was like, bitch, are you serious? Like, you couldn't wait for Netflix to, like, go in the other room, or you couldn't ask for a moment with your attorney before you do that on camera. Like, that's how you could see, like, she's so concerned about herself and how she's gonna look, that she's not even paying attention to how bad it looks, that you're asking your attorney, did I get that right? What do you mean? If you speak it from the heart and are genuine, there is no need to get it right. There's no need. So I don't know. I'm kind of skeptical about what happened and the intention of it all. I am leaning towards thinking she may have done this on purpose after the prison interview. I felt like her prison interview was an attempt to manipulate and gaslight the audience onto her side, when I think people would respect her a lot more if she would just come through and be honest. And I'm not surprised that she behaved this way, because her mom got up on the stand to try and speak for her daughter at sentencing and was like, what did she say about Davion? I don't know the other guy. He's a new one. But for Dominic, it's like, what? What does Davion having to be a new friend have to do with shit? He still lost his life because of your daughter. So I don't think that Mackenzie has the ability to actually feel empathetic about the situation, because I truly believe her parents shield and spoil her. I think her parents are the problem. What do y'all think? Do you guys believe her prison interview? Let me know in the comments if you believe her prison interview. Now, this also kind of made me think about other stuff. She was 17 years old. And I know a lot of people are going to have the question of, like, should teens receive adult sentences? I think the moment that teenagers are allowed to do things that can harm others, that adults are supposed to be responsible for, such as drive, is the moment that they should be allowed to deal with adult consequences. Because yes, teenagers are emotional and, still figuring it out. But there's a lot of teenagers like myself who were highly emotional and went through it. And I didn't off anybody. I didn't do anything like that irresponsible. Like, you should have never been comfortable driving around high like that, Miss Mackenzie. Now, I do think she's younger and she can learn. That's probably why she's going to be out by the time she's like 30 something. However, I don't know that this young lady will learn her lesson for real, because she doesn't have people in her life making her understand she's wrong. She's got her parents who are protecting her. They're providing her with attorneys, and, they said they never saw much need to discipline her. So it's kind of an unfortunate situation. It's definitely an interesting documentary. Also, this shows why it's good to be aware of what's going on in your teenager's relationship and dating life. Like, there's no reason someone 17 with no bills should have been in such a toxic situation as it relates to a relationship that would even lean this way. But overall, my final opinion on this documentary, The Crash, I thought it was well put together. I like when they do documentaries in a way that leaves the audience questioning, like, do we think she did it? Do we think she's intentional? Please let me know in the comments. It also brings up the situation to discuss other issues such as teen responsibility. Should they be driving? Should they be allowed to date so frequently? Like, parents, are you checking your kids' social media? Like, even if you have the parents who are like, okay, I'm okay if you smoke weed, just do it in my house. Why are you okay with your kid posting it on social media? Like, I felt like the parents could have done more in terms of Mackenzie's. It definitely opens up and makes you think about a lot. But overall, I do feel like this crash was intentional. I hope this young lady, I really, really, really hope she learns her lesson. And regardless on which side you are, I think this documentary did a good job at making us question things. But let me know how you guys felt about the crash. I just wanted to give my quick thoughts. Let me know your favorite parts of the doc. Let's keep our conversations going in the comment. I am going to be posting a lot more documentary reviews. Mrs. AKA, shout out to you. She just suggested another documentary that I will be doing off of Investigation Discovery and HBO Max. Also, shout out to Latasha. She's one of our subscribers. She suggested that I do a review of the documentary The Nightmare Upstairs, What Really Happened with Ty and Bren. This is a documentary that was on Disney Plus, so I will be covering that as well next week. I appreciate everybody for supporting my channel. Let me know how y'all felt about the crash, and I'm gonna see y'all for the next review. Peace.